Hi HipKit friends! I'm excited to be here with you today sharing a new project that I have, making a mini album using the September Project Life Kit. And this is a beautiful kit with lots of great things, lots of great products to use. And it's my first mini album in a really long time. So when I was given this assignment, I knew it would be a little bit of a challenge because it's been quite some time since I've made a mini album, but I had a great time doing it and using all of the fun new products. It was a good challenge. So here what I'm doing is using the beautiful shimmers products from the September color kit, and I am painting some cut files. So the pink shade is the Bahama Mama Inklings. So it comes dry and you add a little water and it turns into some beautiful watercolor that you can use to paint with. I'm going to be using Creamy's La Peace Dance, which is a blue color, and then Beach Glass Vibes, which is the green color. I did want to do a rainbow on one of these background cut files, so I did use just some watercolors, some metallic watercolors that I had on hand. And then I used those to help create the rainbow along with the color kit. So I have 3 cut files that I used. The one I'm cutting right now is from the August kit, the August cut files, HipKit Club cut files, and it's called the Rainbow Background. And then the pink that I did up there was on some hibiscus flowers that are part of a cut file also from August, and the cut file is actually titled Hibiscus. And then the cut file that I pulled off is the Geo Floral background from the June kit. So those are some beautiful cut files that are available to HipKit subscribers. So now what I'm doing is I used the cardstock kit. It's got some beautiful patterned cardstocks, some HipKit exclusives, and I cut those just in 6-inch by 12-inch pieces. So I cut straight down the middle, and I am using those as the base for my mini album. So I folded them in half, and then I'm going to glue them together, just the back of one to the front of the next one, and those are going to form the base for the book that I'm making, the mini album. I did put them in rainbow order from some of the beautiful colors that were available in the cardstock kit that match all of the patterned papers and all of the beautiful embellishments this month. So now that I've got them glued together, I am going to go through and use a border punch. It's We Are Memories Keepers border punch, and I am using that on the first page and then every other page throughout the album. So you'll see I turn and skip one, and then I do the next one, and then I'm using my crocodile to punch 3 holes in the side, and that is the base for my book. So now I'm using all of the pieces from the Project Life kit, and I'm going through there and picking which things I think I'm going to want to use, and I start gluing some things down. So I am distressing the edges. This is one of the beautiful 4x6 cards. And the great thing about making a 6x6 mini album with the Project Life kit is that a lot of those cards are already measured to 6 inches. So it makes it pretty easy to use them. So I have glued that down, and then I'm using it turned on its side, and it actually looks really great with the little florals off to the right of the photo there. Kind of acts as a little floral border for me. And then on the left side of that page, I'm going to use one of the 3x4 cards, and that's just got some great journaling lines. So you'll see I kind of layer things over it as I go through, but I do end up using that for some journaling there. So here's another 4x6 card that I loved the pattern of, and I'm gluing that down. And that's going to the back of the page that I had just done before. And I then, once I had kind of the base of both of those pages, the front and the back, then I went and poked holes. They're about a 1/4 inch apart. I didn't measure, and I didn't do any pencil lines. I like to eyeball things, so they're about a 1/4 inch apart. And then I'm using some thread to do some hand stitching. Not only does it help hold those things in place on the page, but I thought it adds some great texture and detail. So I go just a straight stitch, and I go down one side, then I come back up the other through the same holes. So it gives me a pretty solid line. And then I did leave at the top, I left a little bit of extra when I put it in, and then when I got done, so that I could tie a knot up there, because I love how that looks with little threads sticking out of the book. And so that's another little detail I did there. So you're going to see me, I'm kind of going through, and I keep turning back to the page before because I want to, you know, see the progression of where the photos are going. So this whole mini album is using photos from scrapbook weekends that I've had with some of my sweet girlfriends that we scrapbook together, and we've been scrapping together for almost 20 years. So we usually spend 3 weekends a year, and we spend about 3 or 4 days. We used to go to a scrapbook cottage, like a retreat center, but now everyone comes to my house. So these pictures are all in my scrapbook, my craft room. And I loved putting this album together. All of these bright, beautiful colors are so happy and remind me of our scrapbooking weekends and the time we spent together. So a lot of these pictures are from one of the weekends that we did when my sweet Ruby Jane had just been born. And so there's lots of pictures of my friends holding her. And I loved being able to use these products to be able to showcase that. So that's another one of the Project Life cards, and I just trimmed it down so it was like an elongated card, and I just trimmed it down to fit to the 6-inch spot. And then I used one of the like the embellishment frames. There's a whole set of those that I'm going through right there in the camera, and I added that to one of those photos. So I'm just kind of going through and layering things. I love how albums and pages, usually I'm a 12 by 12 scrapbooker, like pretty solely I'm a 12 by 12 scrapbooker, but this was kind of a fun twist on that, and so just gave me smaller canvases to work with. And so I love using those photos and making those pages there. So here, on this back page, I'm taking that cut file that I used, and I cut it 5.5 by 5.5, I think is, 5.5 by 5.5. So I let that dry overnight. So it looks like I just put it there right away, but it's actually, I let it dry overnight so that it was good and solid. And then I used some of my dry adhesive, and then some of those pieces of those little rainbows were just still sticking up, so I went back with some Scotch tacky glue and glued those down. So here, the pieces of cardstock that I trimmed, so to make the base of the album, those 6 by 12 pieces that I used, the pieces that are left over, I'm using to mat all of the photos. So just a little trick to use those same pieces, because then the colors are perfectly matched to the other things in the album, the other pages in the album. I love to add layers, and that's what I was saying just a minute ago. Sorry, I got off track for a second. On my scrapbook pages, one of my favorite things to do is add layer after layer after layer on top of each other, and so that was kind of fun here to do that with all of these embellishments and pieces and parts from the Project Life kit, because there's all different kinds of pieces to use for layering. And so really I'm just going through, now that I have the base of the album done, now I'm going through and embellishing with all of those pieces that we have to choose from. So this is actually the strip at the bottom of the paper. I cut off a couple of the strips from those cardstock sheets. They have beautiful patterns on them to be able to use as embellishments. And here what I was doing, because I added some more things in the album that kind of overlapped those holes a little bit, I just went and repunched them again. I left my crocodile set to the same distance for those holes, so it was easy to just go back and add the holes again. So now I'm starting on the cover, and I'm using just some ribbon that I had from my stash that matches the colors really well, and then some pom-pom ribbon. I love the texture that adds. And it's super easy on a page like this because it doesn't have to go in a sheet protector, or on a mini album like this because it doesn't have to go in a sheet protector or anything, so it can just be there and add all that texture in all its glory without having to worry about not being able to close the book or something. So here I am going to go ahead and stitch it on. Because it's the cover, you can glue it on. You could glue it on, or I used just some dry adhesive to hold it in place while I was working with it. But I did end up adding some hand stitching to hold it on, just because when something is on the cover of something, it's going to naturally get a little more wear and tear as you're opening the pages and going through the album and holding it. So I wanted to make sure it was really good and attached to it. So now I am using the pieces from the hibiscus flowers that I cut. So that cut file, you get just the part that's white that you see there that I had also painted, and then I just made the fill-in pieces using the contour tool in the Cricut design software. So I just created the little pieces to go inside. And then here's a little floral cluster from one of the ephemera packs in the Project Life kit. And if you ever watch my YouTube videos, you hear me say often that I love to cut off white borders off of things. So sometimes I like the white border, but most often I usually trim off the white from any of the floral embellishments that are there. So I did that on there, and then that makes it really easy to fold up the leaves and add a little more texture using that type of embellishment. When I glued down that hibiscus cut file flower, I did only glue in the middle because I wanted to be able to bend up the petals and the actual white frame of the cut file itself. So I only put a little adhesive in the middle. And here I'm adding some embellishment, some more embellishment pieces from the ephemera pack. I did distress the edges of some of those. Not all of them, but some of them. And here I had happy details, and I decided I wanted to use that memories piece. So it says happy memories. And then I just still put the little details underneath because I liked how that looked. And I love that when you're using any of the hip kits and collections, all of the pieces, the colors are all coordinated for you, so it really takes the guesswork out of all of it. So I had lots of things to choose from to add the visual interest to this album. So here what I'm doing is I'm just creating some little insert pages that I want to have there. I love in mini albums to make pages and pieces and parts that stick up and out of the album. So that's what I was doing there. I used the border punch at the top of that card from the kit because I wanted it sticking up out of the top. And then I just used the holes that I had already cut to determine where they needed to go on that card to insert it. So you saw me lay that down and use a pencil to draw in the holes so I could cut it with the crocodile. And then I'm adding a few more embellishment pieces. So right now, because I haven't actually put the rings in the album that are gonna hold it together, I'm just kind of going through and sticking the pages, the extra inserted pages that I'm making. I'm just sticking them where they're gonna go, and then when I put the rings through the album, then I'll actually attach them to something. There are all different size embellishments in the ephemera pack, so those little hearts were perfect because I needed something kind of small that wouldn't cover up my photo, but would add some more color and layers there. And then here, this is a little flower that almost looks like a quilted flower, and like the petals are all look like they're quilted together. So I cut the white border off of that and glued that on. Here's one more floral cluster that I'm going to turn the white edges off of. It's just a personal preference. I love how it looks on other people's pages when they leave the white border on, but for some reason I just can't do it. And I added some tabs around. And then that butterfly that I just put on was from the puffy sticker sheet. So there's a great sheet of all different kinds of puffy stickers that's included in this kit. And so I used that little butterfly there. And then on the card that I had already decided was going to be inserted on the page before, the back of it was white, and I wanted it to have a little more visual interest when you turned it over. So I did add another card that was the same size, and I glued that to the back of it. So it's like a double-sided little page now. And then this cut file, I am just going to use almost as is. I am adding a little border piece to the left that I will use to punch my holes in so that I can stick it in the album. But I really just loved how that cut file looks. It's the geo floral background. So it's kind of like a geometric pattern, but it also has little flowers in it. And I just loved how that looked, just the way it is. So I just added the piece on the left to be able to add it into the book. I am adding some ribbon there. With this piece of ribbon, I used some dry adhesive just to glue it down, and then I'm going to use staples. So I have all different color staples that I like to use. And for this, to staple that ribbon down, I used orange staples. So I love to mix things up and use different things to embellish. So the hand stitching, the staples, the ribbon, you know, you can add in things from your stash to make your album even more fabulous. And then on the side, what I did is I just took 2 of the little tabs from the frame set in the kit and glued them back to back. And then it just makes it a little piece that you can use to turn the page. And then I stapled that on. I adhered it and then to each other, and then I stapled it on the edge of that cut file. And again, used the previous holes that I had already cut to act as a guide for where I needed to make the holes to add that page in. These are more titles and little embellishment pieces from the ephemera pack that's there, and then I am going to go back and add a few puffy stickers to that page. And you see me that I keep going back through the album and looking at the pages before and after. So like that's one of the ways that I'm looking to see as I turn the pages, what do I need to add? Where do I need to add a little bit more to make it look better as those pages are going through? So there, those arrows came from the puffy sticker page. And then here you're going to see, this is the finished pages. I did go back off camera and add a few more things to each page. And I love how it ends up looking. And it was a really pretty quick and easy way to add. And then I added that hibiscus flower. I did that off camera as well. So if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the Hip Kit Club channel. You can tap the bell for notifications of more videos. And I hope you enjoyed the process, and see you next time. Bye guys.